Hey there, welcome back, or if this is your first time joining us, welcome to a journey into medieval darkness. Tonight we're stepping into a peasant village in 14th century England. Not the romantic Renaissance fair version, but the real medieval countryside. The mud, the filth, the back-breaking labor. We're exploring what life was actually like for a common peasant around 1350, just after the Black Death decimated Europe. And I can tell you right now, you wouldn't survive until sunset. Before we travel back 700 years, if you enjoy these deep dives into historical horror, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more content like this and leave a comment. Alright. Get comfortable. Maybe grab a blanket. Turn on some white noise if that helps you sleep. And let's step into medieval England together. Fair warning. The good old days were absolutely terrible. Congratulations. You've just woken up in a peasant village in England in the year 1350. The good news. You're alive. The bad news. You're a serf, legally bound to the land, essentially a slave, and your life expectancy is about 35 years if you're lucky. Your bed is a pile of straw on a dirt floor. No frame, no mattress, no sheets. Just loose straw that's been used for months, full of insects, full of your own filth, damp from the earthen floor beneath. You share this space with your entire family. Your wife, your 4 surviving children, all sleeping in a one-room hovel barely 12 feet square. The room serves every purpose, sleeping, eating, living, everything happens here. Privacy doesn't exist, not for peasants, not in medieval England. The walls are wattle and daub, woven sticks plastered with mud, dung, and straw. They're crumbling, full of gaps, providing minimal protection from the elements. The roof is thatch, rotting, leaking, home to countless insects, rodents, birds. When it rains, water drips through, turning your floor to mud, soaking your straw, making everything worse. There's no chimney, just a hole in the roof for smoke to escape. Except smoke doesn't escape efficiently, it fills the room, chokes you, blackens the walls, damages your lungs. You've been breathing smoke your entire life, your lungs are destroyed, you cough constantly, you'll probably die of respiratory failure. The fire in the center of the room never goes out, keeping it burning is essential, relighting it is difficult. You sleep near it for warmth, risk burning, breathe the smoke, accept the trade-offs. It's still dark outside, barely dawn, but you're awake because peasants wake with the sun, sleep with the sun, have no choice in the schedule. Your body aches everywhere. You're 32 years old but feel 60, decades of brutal labor have destroyed you. Your back is permanently bent from stooping in fields, your hands are gnarled and scarred, your joints are arthritic, every movement hurts. You sit up carefully, your spine protesting. The straw rustles, disturbing the fleas, the lice, the bed bugs. They're everywhere, constant companions, biting, feeding, spreading disease. You've been bitten thousands of times, you barely notice anymore, it's just normal, just life. Your wife is already up, has been for an hour, tending the fire, preparing the morning meal. She looks exhausted, ancient, she's 28 but could pass for 50. Childbirth, malnutrition, endless labor, they've destroyed her. She's had 8 pregnancies, for children survived, for died in infancy. Each pregnancy risked her life, each birth could have killed her, she survived through luck more than anything. Your children sleep on, the youngest is 3, the oldest is 12. They'll wake soon, start their day of labor, because children work, everyone works, survival requires it. The 12-year-old works the fields with you, the 9-year-old tends animals, the 6-year-old helps his mother, the 3-year-old is barely old enough to contribute but will soon. Education doesn't exist for peasants, there's no school, no learning, just work from childhood until death. Your children will be peasants, will live exactly as you do, will die young and forgotten. There's no social mobility, no escape, no hope for better. You stand, careful not to hit your head on the low ceiling. The room is barely 6 feet tall, designed for people malnourished and stunted. You're 5'4". This is normal height for medieval peasants. You step outside into the village, and immediately you're hit by the smell. Medieval villages smell like hell, like concentrated filth, like everything wrong with human habitation. There's no sewage system, no waste disposal, no sanitation. People throw their waste into the street, into pits, into wherever. Human feces, animal dung, rotting garbage, dead animals, all accumulating, never removed, creating thick layers of filth. The village street is mud, mixed with waste, churned by feet and hooves, impossible to cross without wading through filth. Your feet are wrapped in rags, you can't afford real shoes, the filth soaks through immediately, your feet are perpetually wet, perpetually cold, perpetually infected. You'll probably lose toes to frostbite or gangrene, most peasants do, it's expected. The village is a cluster of hovels, maybe 30 families, all living in identical squalor. The houses are falling apart, roofs sagging, walls crumbling, everything in various states of decay. No one has resources to maintain them properly, no one has time, everyone just survives. The manor house is visible in the distance, the lord's residence, a real building, stone, imposing, representing everything you're not. The lord owns everything, the land, the village, you. You're a serf, bound to this land, unable to leave without permission, essentially property. The feudal system is absolute, rigid, enforced through violence. At the top, the king, below him, nobles, below them, knights, below them, freemen, and at the very bottom, you. Serfs. The foundation that supports everyone else. You owe the lord labor, 3 days a week working his fields, plus additional days during harvest, plus fees, plus taxes, plus endless obligations. In exchange, you get a small plot to work for yourself, and protection, which means the lord's men won't kill you themselves. It's a terrible deal, exploitative, one-sided, but it's the only deal available. Rejecting it means starvation, homelessness, death. So you accept, you submit, you work. The village church is the only substantial building besides the manor. Stone, solid, dominating the village square. The church is all-powerful in medieval life, controlling, demanding, extracting its own taxes and labor. The priest is the only educated person in the village, he can read, write, understand Latin. Everyone else is completely illiterate, unable to read even their own language, dependent on the priest for all knowledge. The priest tells you what to believe, how to behave, what God wants. And you believe, you must, questioning the church is heresy, heresy is death. You walk toward the fields, joining other peasants, all trudging through mud, all exhausted before the day begins. The conversation is minimal, grunts, complaints, everyone too tired for more. The fields stretch endlessly, divided into strips, each family working their assigned sections. The 3-field system rotates crops, 1 field wheat, 1 field barley or oats, 1 field fallow. It's inefficient, but it's all medieval agriculture knows. Your strip is muddy, poorly drained, the soil exhausted from centuries of use. You have no fertilizer except animal dung, no advanced tools, just a wooden plow, an ox if you're lucky, your own muscles if not. Most peasants can't afford oxen, they share, borrow, or pull the plow themselves. You're fortunate, you share an ox with 3 other families, today is your day to use it. The plow is crude, heavy, inefficient. You guide it through the soil, the ox straining, you straining, progress measured in feet per hour. This is your life, walking behind an ox, turning soil, planting seeds, hoping for harvest. The work is back-breaking, relentless, soul-crushing. Hours pass, the sun climbs, you're already exhausted. But you continue, because stopping means not eating means dying, dying means your family dies. The motivation is pure survival, nothing more, nothing less. Around mid-morning, the bailiff arrives, the Lord's enforcer, checking on peasants, ensuring work is done, collecting fees. He's mounted, well-fed, armored, everything you're not. He represents the Lord's power, his authority, his willingness to use violence. The bailiff reviews the workers, noting who's present, who's absent, who's slacking. Absences are punished, slacking is punished, everything is punished. The feudal system runs on coercion, on violence, on the constant threat of beating, imprisonment, worse. You keep your head down, work steadily, avoid eye contact. Drawing attention is dangerous, the bailiff might find fault, might impose fines, might beat you for sport. It happens regularly, casually, peasants have no rights, no recourse, no protection from abuse. The bailiff leaves, satisfied or not caring, moving to the next field, continuing his rounds. You breathe easier, tension releasing, continue working. Your son works beside you, the 12-year-old, learning, suffering, being shaped into the next generation of peasant. He'll inherit your status, your obligations, your plot of land. He'll marry young, have children, work himself to death, exactly as you're doing. The cycle is unbreakable, generational, eternal. There's no way out, no escape, no hope of different. Occasionally you see the Lord riding through, inspecting his property, which includes you. He's fat, healthy, clean, wearing fine clothes, riding a magnificent horse. The contrast is shocking, obscene, infuriating. He eats meat daily, you eat meat once or twice a year. He sleeps in a bed, you sleep on straw. He lives in comfort, you live in filth. The inequality is staggering, total, divinely ordained according to the Church. God made lords to rule, made peasants to serve. Questioning this is questioning God, which is unthinkable, which is heresy, which is death. So you accept, you bow when he passes, you show respect to the man who owns you, who exploits you, who will never see you as human. Midday arrives, time for brief meal. You sit in the field, eating bread, hard, dark, gritty. The bread is made from mixed grains, barley and oats mostly, sometimes contaminated with ergot, a fungus that causes hallucinations, convulsions, death. You've seen ergot poisoning, people writhing, screaming, their limbs turning black, rotting off. It's called St. Anthony's fire, it's terrifying, it's common. But you eat the bread anyway, because it's food, because hunger is worse than risk, because choice doesn't exist. You have a bit of cheese, hard, moldy, strong. Cheese keeps better than milk, provides calories and fat, it's a staple. And you have ale, weak, nutritious, safer than water. Everyone drinks ale, adults and children, because water is contaminated, full of disease, deadly. Ale is boiled during brewing, killing some pathogens, making it safer, if not safe. The meal is brief, insufficient, leaving you still hungry. But it's all you'll get until evening, all you can afford, all that's available. You return to work, the afternoon stretching ahead, more hours of labor, more exhaustion, more suffering. The other peasants work nearby, you know them, you've known them your whole life, everyone knows everyone in a medieval village. There's no privacy, no anonymity, no escape from community scrutiny. Everyone watches everyone, judges everyone, knows everyone's business. This creates social cohesion, mutual support, but also oppressive conformity, vicious gossip, impossible pressure. Deviating from norms is dangerous, being different is suspect, individuality is suppressed. You conform, you follow rules, you do what's expected, because the alternative is ostracism, punishment, violence. The village has its secrets, its darkness, its hidden horrors. Domestic violence is common, accepted. Men beat wives, parents beat children. Violence is normal discipline, normal life. You've beaten your wife when she disobeyed, when dinner was late, when you were frustrated, because husbands have that right, that authority, that expectation. She accepts it, expects it, knows it's normal, knows worse could happen. Sexual violence exists too, whispered about, never discussed openly, victims blamed, perpetrators protected. The lord, the bailiff, even the priest, they have power, they use it. Peasant women are vulnerable, unprotected, expendable. Your daughter will face this, probably, possibly, you hope not but know it's likely. Protecting her is impossible, you have no power, no authority, no ability to challenge those above. You just hope, pray, try to teach her to avoid notice, to be invisible, to survive. Infanticide happens, rarely discussed, sometimes necessary, always tragic. When families can't feed another mouth, when a child is deformed, when pregnancy is shameful, babies die. Smothered, abandoned, accidentally overlaid during sleep. The church condemns it, the law forbids it, but it happens, quietly, desperately, understood if not approved. You've lost for children, to disease officially, but one, maybe, you're not sure it was so long ago, the memory is unclear, the guilt is permanent. These are the village secrets, the darkness beneath the surface, the reality no one discusses but everyone knows. Medieval villages are small, closed, everyone complicit in everything, everyone protecting, everyone hiding, everyone surviving however they can. The afternoon wears on, your body failing, your strength depleted, your will eroding. But you continue, because stopping is impossible, because the work demands completion, because survival requires endurance. Finally, the sun begins to set, the workday ending, release approaching. You walk home, covered in mud, soaked in sweat, utterly destroyed. The village is busy, people returning, animals being penned, the rhythm of agricultural life playing out. Children run around, filthy, half-naked, playing games, chasing chickens, being children despite everything. They laugh, they play, they find joy, somehow, despite the horror, despite the poverty, despite everything. It's remarkable, the human capacity for happiness even in misery, for play even in suffering, for childhood even in hell. You reach your hovel, your wife has prepared dinner, pottage, a thick stew of whatever vegetables are available. Cabbage, onions, beans, turnips, all boiled together, seasoned with salt if you have it, herbs if you don't. It's bland, repetitive, nutritionally inadequate, but it's warm, it's filling, it's food. You eat from a wooden bowl, with a wooden spoon, sitting on the dirt floor, grateful for what little you have, knowing many have less. Your children eat eagerly, hungrily, never fully satisfied but accepting what's provided. They know hunger, intimately, constantly. It shapes their lives, their bodies, their futures. After dinner, there's brief leisure, not much. The day isn't over, there are chores. Your wife spins wool, constantly, endlessly, producing thread for cloth, for clothing, for sale if there's extra. Spinning is women's work, done every spare moment, while talking, while cooking, while watching children, always spinning. Your children help with various tasks, fetching water, tending fire, mending tools, everyone contributing, everyone working until sleep. You sit, exhausted, too tired for much, staring at the fire, thinking about nothing, just existing. The fire's warmth is comforting, the smoke is choking, the combination is just life, just normal, just what you've always known. You think about tomorrow, which will be identical to today, and the day after, and the day after that, forever, until you die. This is your life, this is all your life will ever be, working the same fields, living in the same hovel, serving the same Lord, until your body gives out. There's no vacation, no retirement, no rest. You work until you can't, then you die, quickly if you're lucky, slowly if not. The church says suffering is noble, that poverty brings you closer to God, that your reward is in heaven. You want to believe this, need to believe it, because the alternative is too terrible, too hopeless, too crushing. So you believe, you pray, you attend Mass every Sunday, you pay your tithes to the church, you follow the rules, you hope for better in the next life, because this life offers nothing. Night falls fully, darkness complete, no street lights, no lamps, just firelight and moonlight. The village quiets, people retreating to their hovels, preparing for sleep, ending another day identical to all others. You lie down on your straw, your family around you, the fire burning low, the smoke filling the room, sleep approaching. Tomorrow comes early, brings more work, more suffering, more surviving. But tonight you rest, you sleep, you recover what strength you can. This is medieval peasant life, brutal, short, hopeless. This is what you've just experienced, the morning and day of a serf, a person without freedom, without rights, without future. This is why you wouldn't last a day, because the physical hardship, combined with the psychological crushing, combined with the complete hopelessness, would destroy you. Modern people, used to comfort, to choice, to hope, we couldn't survive this, couldn't endure this, couldn't accept this. But medieval peasants did, for generations, for centuries, because they had no choice, because this was reality, because there was no alternative. They survived, they endured, they found meaning, somehow, in religion, in family, in small moments of joy. They were human, like us, but shaped by circumstances we can barely imagine, enduring suffering we couldn't comprehend. This is the truth of medieval life for most people, not knights and castles, not feasts and tournaments, but mud and filth, hunger and disease, labor and death. The peasants were 90% of the population, the foundation of medieval society, and they lived like this, in conditions we'd consider inhuman, in poverty we'd find intolerable, in servitude we'd call slavery. But to them it was normal, it was life, it was all they knew and all they'd ever know. Sleep well tonight, in your comfortable bed, in your heated home, in your modern world. Sleep well, knowing you've glimpsed medieval reality, the darkness behind the romantic myths, the suffering beneath the noble tales. Tomorrow we continue, exploring the food that barely sustained them, the agricultural system that trapped them, the hunger that defined them. Rest while you can, because the medieval world only gets darker from here. You drift into exhausted sleep, your body aching, your mind numb, your spirit crushed by another day of servitude. Around you, your family sleeps, equally destroyed, equally trapped, equally hopeless. Outside, the village settles, the animals quiet, the darkness deepens. Somewhere in the manor, the Lord sleeps in comfort, warm, fed, secure, never thinking about the peasants who enable his life, never caring about their suffering. The priest sleeps in his rectory, better housed than peasants, better fed, promising heaven while enjoying earth. And you sleep on straw, on dirt, breathing smoke, covered in filth, dreaming of nothing because exhaustion doesn't allow dreams. This is medieval England, this is 1350, this is peasant life. Where you work until you break, where you eat until you're just barely alive, where you live without living, where you exist without existing. Tomorrow brings more, always more, the cycle never ending, the suffering never ceasing, the hope never arriving. Welcome to medieval peasant life, where you wouldn't last a day, where they lasted lifetimes, where survival was achievement enough, because there was nothing else, nothing more, nothing better. Sleep well, if medieval horrors allow it. Rest well, knowing the worst is yet to come. Welcome back to medieval England. If you survived yesterday's introduction to peasant life, you're tougher than most. Tonight we're exploring something fundamental. Food and agriculture. Except in medieval villages, food is scarce, monotonous, and often contaminated. Agriculture is backbreaking, inefficient, and barely productive enough to prevent mass starvation. We'll dive into what peasants actually ate when their diet consisted almost entirely of bread and pottage, how the three-field system trapped them in endless cycles of planting, and why hunger was such a constant companion that it shaped bodies, minds, and entire societies. So settle in. Get comfortable. And let's explore the brutal reality of medieval sustenance. Where bread is life, where meat is a distant dream, and where famine is always one bad harvest away. You wake to hunger. Not that I haven't eaten in a few hours hunger. The gnawing, constant, life-defining hunger that comes from never eating enough, from malnutrition being your permanent state, from your body slowly consuming itself to survive. This is normal. This is medieval peasant life. This is what hunger actually means. Your first meal is breakfast, if you can call it that. A piece of dark bread, hard enough to break teeth, washed down with weak ale. That's it. No eggs, no bacon, no variety, just bread and ale. Every morning. Every day. For your entire life. The bread is the center of everything. Bread is 70 to 80% of your caloric intake. Bread is survival. Bread is life. But medieval peasant bread is nothing like modern bread. It's dark, dense, coarse, made from mixed grains. Barley and oats mostly, sometimes rye, wheat only for the wealthy. The grain is ground in the Lord's mill, which you're required to use, paying a fee for the privilege. The miller is often corrupt, keeping extra grain, mixing in sawdust or sand to increase weight. You know this, everyone knows, but challenging him is impossible. The miller is protected by the Lord, accusations are dangerous, you just accept the theft, the adulteration, the exploitation. The flour is coarse, full of grit, containing pieces of millstone that broke off during grinding. Every bite of bread wears down your teeth, grinding enamel, exposing nerves, creating cavities, causing infections. By age 30, your teeth are ruins, by 40, many are gone, chewing becomes difficult, eating becomes painful. The bread is often contaminated with ergot, a fungus that grows on rye, turning grains purple-black, concentrating powerful toxins. Small amounts cause hallucinations, visions of convulsions. Large amounts cause St. Anthony's fire, a horrifying condition where your limbs turn black, gangrene sets in, extremities rot and fall off, you die in agony. You've seen it, everyone has, people screaming, writhing, their fingers and toes turning black and dropping off. The church says it's God's punishment, the reality is contaminated grain, but no one understands, no one knows, people just suffer and die. You try to avoid the blackened grains when you see them, but sometimes you can't, sometimes you're too hungry, sometimes they're mixed in too thoroughly. You just hope, pray, accept the risk, because eating contaminated bread is better than not eating. The bread is baked in communal ovens, another lord's monopoly, another required fee. Your wife prepares the dough, carries it to the baker, pays the fee, retrieves the baked loaves. The system is designed to extract maximum value from peasants. Every necessity is controlled, monetized, exploited. Beyond bread, your diet is pottage. A thick stew of whatever vegetables you can grow or gather. Cabbage, onions, leeks, beans, peas, turnips. All boiled together in a pot that hangs over your fire, simmering constantly, never fully cleaned, accumulating flavors and bacteria. You add to it daily, whatever is available. Sometimes it's thick, sometimes it's thin, always it's bland. Salt is expensive, controlled, taxed. Most peasants can't afford enough. Food is underseasoned, flavorless, consumed for calories, not pleasure. Herbs help, parsley, sage, thyme, gathered from the wild, adding some flavor, some variety, some relief from monotony. The vegetables are your own, grown in your garden plot near your hovel. This is crucial. The small garden provides much of your food, vitamins you desperately need, variety that prevents scurvy, sustenance that keeps you alive. You grow cabbages, hardy, reliable, storing well through winter. Onions and leeks, adding flavor, keeping in cool storage, lasting months. Beans and peas, protein sources, dried for winter, soaked and cooked, essential nutrition. But the garden is small, the soil is poor, your tools are primitive, productivity is low. You're constantly hungry, constantly malnourished, constantly wishing for more. Meat is rare. Incredibly rare. You might eat meat 3 or 4 times a year, at festivals, at harvest celebrations, when an animal dies and must be consumed quickly. The Lord owns all large game, deer, boar, hunting them is poaching, poaching is punishable by death. You own chickens maybe, if you're fortunate, they provide eggs sometimes, meat when they stop laying, but feeding them is difficult, keeping them alive is challenge, they're valuable and vulnerable. A pig, if you're very fortunate, fed on scraps, on forest mast, on whatever you can find. Slaughtering the pig is a major event, the meat salted, preserved, rationed carefully, lasting weeks if you're careful. Fish is more accessible, if you live near water, rivers and streams have fish, though the best fishing is reserved for the Lord. You catch small fish, eels, whatever you can, adding protein to your diet, breaking the monotony. But fish spoils quickly, must be eaten immediately or preserved with salt, and salt is expensive, so fish is treat, not staple. Dairy is important, if you have a cow, which most peasants don't. Cows are expensive, require feeding, need land and care, are beyond most families' means. But if you have one, or share one, milk provides nutrition, calories, fat. Except milk spoils within hours in medieval conditions, no refrigeration means immediate consumption or processing. So milk becomes cheese, hard cheese that keeps, that stores, that provides concentrated nutrition through winter. Butter is made, salted heavily, stored in crocks, used sparingly, adding fat to the lean diet. The diet is severely deficient. Protein is insufficient, you're constantly breaking down muscle, losing strength, aging prematurely. Vitamins are lacking, scurvy is common, rickets affects children, night blindness is normal. Calories are barely adequate, you're chronically hungry, your body is starving slowly, you're shorter, weaker, sicker than your genetic potential. The average medieval peasant is 5 foot for men, 5 feet for women. Not genetics, malnutrition. Stunted growth from childhood deprivation, from never eating enough, from bodies rationing development to survive. Children are visibly malnourished, thin, distended bellies from parasites and malnutrition, bowed legs from rickets, clearly suffering. But this is normal, everyone looks like this, no one knows different, it's just how people are. The agricultural system ensures this scarcity. The three-field system divides land into 3 sections. One field grows winter wheat, planted in fall, harvested in summer. One field grows spring crops, barley, oats, peas, planted in spring, harvested in fall. One field lies fallow, resting, recovering, growing nothing. Each year the fields rotate, the system continues, inefficient but functional. Your strips are scattered across all 3 fields, ensuring you participate in every phase, preventing you from specializing, keeping you dependent on the system. This is deliberate, maintaining control, preventing independence, ensuring compliance. The ploughing is brutal work. The heavy plough, pulled by oxen, requires multiple people, communal effort, shared resources. If you don't have oxen, you borrow, you beg, you pull the plough yourself, destroying your body but having no choice. Planting is back-breaking, broadcast sowing, scattering seed by hand, hoping it lands well, knowing much is wasted. The growing season is anxious, praying for rain but not too much, for sun but not drought, for everything to align perfectly, knowing it rarely does. Harvest is the critical time, everything depends on successful harvest, life or death, survival or starvation. All hands work, men, women, children, from dawn to dusk, racing against weather, against time, against spoilage. The grain is cut with sickles, back-breaking work, bent over, swinging, cutting, gathering. Bound into sheaves, stacked, dried, threshed, winnowed, endless labor, exhausting, desperate. And then the Lord takes his share. Half, sometimes more, depending on arrangements, on obligations, on his greed. You watch your labor, your food, your survival being carted away, going to the manor, feeding the Lord and his household while your children starve. The church takes its tithe, 10%, supposedly, actually more when they can extract it. So you harvest a field, and keep less than half, sometimes less than a third, barely enough to survive, never enough to thrive. Storage is critical and primitive. Grain is stored in sacks, in chests, in barrels, protected from moisture and pests as much as possible. Which is not much. Rats, mice, weevils, all invade, all consume, all contaminate. You lose significant portions to spoilage, to vermin, to theft. The grain you have must last until next harvest, rationed carefully, consumed sparingly, always hoping it's enough. Winter is the hungry time, the gap between harvests, when stored food runs low, when fresh vegetables are gone, when survival is uncertain. You eat less, conserve supplies, stretch meals, hope you calculated correctly. By spring, you're eating anything, desperate, starving, waiting for the new crops, for relief that's still weeks away. These are the hungry months, when people die, when the weak succumb, when winter claims its victims. Famine is regular, not occasional. Every few years, the harvest fails, the crops die, the stores run out, people starve. Mass starvation, thousands dying, villages emptied, populations decimated. The 1315 to 1317 Great Famine killed millions, 10 to 15% of Northern Europe's population, dying over 3 years of failed harvests, of rain-ruined crops, of mass death. You survived that, barely, you were young, you remember, the horror never leaves. Watching neighbors die, seeing bodies, experiencing hunger so intense it drove people to madness, to violence, to things unthinkable. Cannibalism happened, whispered, never confirmed, but the stories, the rumors, the suspicions, they persist. People ate anything, grass, bark, leather, anything to fill bellies, anything to survive. Most died anyway, the old first, then the young, then the weak, then eventually the strong. And the lords, the church, they survived fine, they had stores, they had reserves, they ate while peasants starved. The injustice, the inequality, the cruelty, it burns, it enrages, but challenging it is impossible, suicidal, pointless. So you endure, you survive, you accept. Your children are hungry now, right now, today. Not famine hungry, just normal hungry, the permanent state of peasant childhood. They ask for more, you have none, they cry, you harden yourself, you tell them to be grateful for what they have, to stop complaining, to accept their lot. Because teaching them to accept hunger, to endure deprivation, to survive scarcity, this is necessary, this is parenting, this is preparing them for lives of want. The Lord's family eats meat daily, white bread, delicacies, imported spices. They feast, they waste, they consume while you starve. You've seen it, serving at the manor, watching food, good food, more food than your family eats in a month, consumed in one meal, leftovers thrown to dogs. The contrast, the waste, the abundance beside your deprivation, it's obscene, infuriating, crushing. But this is the natural order, the church says, God's will, your place in creation. Questioning it is sin, is pride, is punishable. So you bow, you serve, you watch the Lord eat, and you return to your hovel, to your hungry children, to your inadequate bread, to your reality. Ale is crucial, everyone drinks it, children, adults, everyone. Because water is deadly, contaminated, full of disease. Wells are shallow, poorly constructed, easily contaminated by the waste surrounding them. Rivers carry sewage, runoff, pollution from upstream. Drinking water means dysentery, cholera, typhoid, death. But ale is boiled during brewing, the heat kills some pathogens, makes it safer, if not safe. The ale is weak, low alcohol, nutritious from the grains, consumed in massive quantities, gallons per day per person. Brewing is women's work, constant work, maintaining supply, ensuring freshness, critical for survival. Your wife brews weekly, using grain, water, yeast, creating the weak ale that keeps the family hydrated, alive. The process is simple but essential, boiling kills, fermentation preserves, alcohol inhibits bacteria. It's not perfect, people still get sick, but it's better than water, better than dying, better than nothing. Food preparation is primitive, dangerous, time-consuming. Cooking over open fire, no temperature control, everything boiled or roasted, no frying, no baking except bread. The pot hangs over fire, pottage simmers, vegetables soften, flavors meld, bacteria multiply. Food poisoning is common, dysentery constant, stomach problems universal. But you eat it, because it's food, because you're hungry, because refusing means starving. Preservation is limited to salting, drying, smoking. Salt preserves meat, fish, prevents spoilage, extends storage. But salt is expensive, controlled, taxed. Most peasants have too little, preservation fails, food spoils, waste happens, hunger intensifies. Smoking preserves through dehydration, through chemical compounds in smoke, creating jerky, smoked fish, preserved meat. The process requires time, fuel, expertise. Success is variable. Drying works for some foods, beans, peas, herbs, removing water, preventing spoilage, allowing storage. But moisture returns, mold grows, loss occurs, nothing is certain. You're eating dinner now, pottage, bread, ale. The same meal as breakfast, as lunch, as yesterday, as always. The monotony is crushing, soul-destroying, but complaining is pointless. This is what you have, this is all you'll ever have, acceptance is survival, resistance is futile. Your children eat quickly, hungrily, scraping bowls, seeking every morsel, never satisfied, never full. You watch them, your heart breaking, wishing you could provide more, knowing you can't, accepting the limitations, the poverty, the endless insufficiency. This is medieval peasant food, scarce, monotonous, barely adequate for survival. This is the agricultural system, inefficient, exploitative, keeping peasants perpetually hungry, perpetually dependent, perpetually trapped. Tomorrow you'll wake hungry, you'll eat bread and ale, you'll work the fields, you'll come home, you'll eat pottage, you'll sleep hungry. The cycle continues, unbroken, eternal, until death. This is your food reality, this is medieval agriculture, this is why you wouldn't survive, because the constant hunger, the nutritional deficiency, the monotonous deprivation, would break you psychologically before it killed you physically. Modern people can't comprehend true hunger, sustained hunger, permanent hunger. We've never experienced it, never endured it, never accepted it as normal. But medieval peasants did every day, every meal, every moment. Their entire existence shaped by scarcity, by insufficiency, by making do with less than adequate. They were tough, resilient, adapted to deprivation. But they were also stunted, weakened, destroyed by malnutrition, by systems designed to extract rather than sustain. Sleep well tonight, knowing you've glimpsed their hunger, their food reality, their agricultural prison. Tomorrow we continue, exploring the work that destroyed them, the feudal obligations that trapped them, the labor that defined their entire existence. Rest, eat if you're hungry, appreciate the abundance, because they had none, they endured without, they survived despite. The food of medieval England, barely enough to prevent starvation, never enough to permit thriving, always insufficient, always leaving them hungry, always wanting more. You lie down on your straw, stomach growling despite eating, body demanding nutrients it's not receiving, hunger your permanent companion. Your wife sleeps beside you, equally hungry, equally malnourished, her body damaged by inadequate nutrition and constant childbearing. Your children sleep, their small bellies distended from parasites and malnutrition, their bodies stunted from insufficient food, their futures limited by childhood deprivation. This is normal, this is every night, this is medieval peasant reality. Outside, the village is dark, quiet, everyone sleeping, everyone hungry, everyone surviving on minimal sustenance. In the manner, the lord sleeps full, satisfied, well fed. The contrast defines the feudal system, the lords feast while peasants starve, the abundance and deprivation coexisting, inequality made tangible through food. The Church's teaching says this is proper, that peasants should accept poverty, that suffering brings holiness, that heaven compensates for earthly deprivation. You want to believe this, need to believe it, because the alternative is too bitter, too hopeless, too cruel. So you believe, you accept, you endure the hunger, and you hope for better, in the next world if not this one. Sleep comes despite hunger, exhaustion overwhelming discomfort, your body demanding rest regardless of nutritional deficit. You dream of food, sometimes, feasts that never happened, meals you'll never eat, abundance you'll never experience. The dreams are cruel, waking to reality is crushing, but they're all you have, small escapes, brief respites, moments of imagined plenty. Tomorrow brings more bread, more pottage, more hunger, more scarcity. The cycle continues, the agricultural year turns, the seasons change, but the hunger remains constant, the deprivation permanent, the insufficiency eternal. This is medieval peasant life, this is the food system, this is agricultural feudalism. Designed to extract, built to exploit, maintaining lords through peasant deprivation, sustaining the church through mandatory tithes, keeping everyone in their place through controlled scarcity. The system works, for those at top, for those who benefit, for those who eat while others starve. And it crushes those at bottom, those who produce, those who labor, those who go hungry so others can feast. That's the truth, the bitter truth, the hungry truth, of medieval agriculture and peasant food. Sleep well, if hunger and discomfort allow it. Rest well, knowing tomorrow brings the same, more bread, more pottage, more hunger, more endless agricultural labor. The food that barely keeps you alive, the harvest that's mostly taken, the hunger that never ends. This is why you wouldn't last a day as a medieval peasant, because the hunger, the malnutrition, the endless scarcity would destroy your will, break your spirit, crush your hope. They endured it, somehow, finding meaning despite deprivation, surviving despite insufficiency, continuing despite hunger. That's remarkable, that's human, that's what people do, adapt, endure, survive. But it's also tragic, that anyone had to, that systems created this, that exploitation was normal, that hunger was tool of control. Remember them, honor their endurance, acknowledge their suffering. And be grateful, deeply grateful, for the abundance you have, the food you waste, the meals you take for granted. Because they had none, they wanted desperately, they died hungry, and the hunger, more than anything, defined their lives, shaped their existence, made medieval peasant life the hell it was. Sleep well, the hungry nights continue tomorrow, when we explore the work, the labor, the crushing obligations of feudal servitude. Welcome back to medieval England. Tonight we explore the crushing weight of feudal obligations. The work you owe the Lord, the labor you owe the church, the taxes that consume everything you produce. We'll reveal why being a serf means you're essentially property, why 3 days a week belong to someone else, and why the feudal system is slavery in everything but name. So settle in once more. And let's explore the brutal reality of medieval labor. Where your body belongs to the Lord, your time is not your own, and freedom is a concept that doesn't apply to you. The bailiff arrives at dawn, banging on hovels, rousing peasants, demanding labor. Today is a work day, a day you owe the Lord, a day when your time, your strength, your life belongs to Him. You have no choice, no ability to refuse, attendance is mandatory, absence is punished severely. You gather your tools, such as they are. A wooden spade, a hoe, an axe if you're fortunate. These tools are primitive, poorly made, breaking frequently, irreplaceable. You join the other peasants, trudging toward the Lord's fields, the domain, the land worked for his benefit, not yours. The feudal system is elegant in its exploitation. The Lord owns the land, all of it, everything. In exchange for being allowed to work a small plot for yourself, you owe him labor, service, fees, taxes. The arrangement is called serfdom. You're a serf, bound to the land, unable to leave without permission. This is not slavery, technically, legally, according to the church and the law. But practically, functionally, what's the difference? You can't leave, you can't refuse work, you can't own property, you're bought and sold with the land. The only real difference is that you can't be killed casually, though beatings are common, acceptable, expected. Serfdom varies by region, by lord, by local custom. But the basics are universal. You owe labor, typically 3 days a week, working the Lord's fields, maintaining his property, serving his needs. During harvest, you owe more, extra days, everyone working, bringing in the Lord's crops before your own. You owe fees, for everything, for using the Lord's mill, for using his oven, for using his wine press. Every necessity is monopolized, every service requires payment, every interaction extracts wealth. You owe taxes, in kind, a portion of your harvest, of your livestock, of everything you produce. The church demands its tithe, 10% supposedly, often more, extracted before you can feed your family. You owe boon work, emergency labor, whenever the Lord demands, for whatever purpose, dropping everything, serving immediately. You owe Harriet, when you die, the Lord takes your best animal, your best possession, death tax, inheritance theft, normalized exploitation. Your children inherit your status, your obligations, your servitude. They're born serfs, will die serfs, the cycle unbreakable, the bondage generational. The Lord's fields stretch endlessly, larger than the peasant strips, better maintained, more productive. You work them first, they get priority, they get your best effort, because the bailiff watches, because punishment for slacking is swift and brutal. The work is identical to working your own fields, plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting. But it feels different, heavier, more oppressive. Because this doesn't feed your family, doesn't benefit you, doesn't improve your life. This enriches the Lord, feeds his household, supports his lifestyle of leisure while you labor. The bailiff circulates, observing, criticizing, threatening. He carries a stick, uses it liberally, beating those who slack, who complain, who draw his attention. You keep your head down, work steadily, avoid eye contact. Being noticed is dangerous. The bailiff might decide you're lazy, might beat you, might impose fines, might make your life worse than it already is. The work continues for hours, back-breaking, exhausting, soul-crushing. Your body screams, your muscles ache, your back spasms. But you continue, because stopping brings punishment, because the work must be done, because you have no choice. Around you, other peasants work equally hard, equally miserable, equally trapped. No one speaks, no one jokes, everyone just endures. The weight of servitude is psychological as much as physical. Knowing your time isn't your own, knowing your labor benefits others, knowing your property, it crushes something inside. Modern concepts of freedom, of autonomy, of self-determination, they don't exist for you. You're a tool, a resource, a thing that works and produces and serves. Your thoughts don't matter, your desires are irrelevant, your dreams are impossible. Midday brings brief rest, you eat the bread you brought, drink weak ale, sit in the field exhausted. The bailiff eats better, meat, cheese, white bread, everything you don't have. He eats openly, visibly, demonstrating the hierarchy, reminding you of your place. After the meal, more work, more hours, more suffering. The afternoon is worse than morning, your body is failing, your energy depleted, your will eroding. But the work continues, must continue, will continue until the bailiff declares it done. Finally, as the sun approaches the horizon, release comes. The bailiff dismisses you, the work day ends, you're free to return to your hovel, to your own work, to the fields you work for yourself. Except you're too exhausted to work your own fields, too destroyed to be productive, too broken to do more than collapse. This is intentional, this is the system working as designed. The Lord gets your best hours, your strongest efforts, your peak productivity. You get exhausted leftovers, diminished capacity, whatever remains after exploitation. You stagger home, every step painful, your body screaming, your mind numb. Tomorrow is yours, theoretically, a day to work your own strips, to produce food for your family, to survive. But tomorrow you'll still be exhausted, still damaged from today, still operating at reduced capacity. The feudal obligations extend beyond labor. The Lord's mill is the only mill, using it is mandatory, the fee is extortionate. The miller keeps extra flour, everyone knows, no one can challenge, the theft is systematic and protected. The Lord's oven is the only oven, baking your bread requires fees, using your own oven is forbidden, even if you could build one, which you can't. The Lord's wine press, for making wine from grapes, another monopoly, another fee, another extraction. Every tool, every service, every necessity, controlled, monopolized, moneyized. The marriage tax, emergit, you pay the Lord for permission to marry, for permission to have a wife, for the privilege of reproduction. Your daughter's marriage requires higher payment, she's valuable property, transferring her requires compensation to the Lord. The tallage, arbitrary tax, imposed whenever the Lord wants money, for whatever reason, with no limits, no protection, no recourse. He announces a tallage, you pay, or you suffer consequences. The system is designed for total extraction, for removing every possible penny, for keeping peasants perpetually poor, perpetually dependent, perpetually controllable. Wealth accumulation is impossible, deliberately, systematically, any surplus is taxed, fees increase, new obligations appear. The Lord doesn't want rich peasants, he wants poor ones, desperate ones, compliant ones. Poverty is control mechanism, tool of oppression, feature of the system, not bug. Some peasants are freemen, not serfs, owning their land, paying rent instead of labor. They're still poor, still exploited, still trapped by the system. But they have mobility, can leave, can refuse certain obligations. You envy them, desperately, hopelessly. But becoming free requires money, legal processes, the Lord's permission, all impossible, all out of reach, all perpetually denied. Your children will be serfs, forever, the bloodline is tainted, the status is inherited, the bondage is eternal. The church extracts too, equally, relentlessly. The tithe, 10% of everything, grain, animals, produce, labor. Calculated before you eat, before you pay the Lord, before you survive, God comes first, supposedly. The church says the tithe is biblical, mandatory, divinely required. Refusing is sin, is heresy, is damnation. So you pay, you give, you hand over food your children need, because hell is scarier than starvation. The church also demands labor, maintaining the church building, working church lands, serving the priest. Days of your life, given freely, supposedly voluntary, actually mandatory. The priest is the only educated person, the only one who can read, who understands Latin, who interprets scripture. He has power, authority, influence. He's supposed to be celibate, many aren't, sleeping with peasant women, fathering children, maintaining mistresses. You know this, everyone knows, no one speaks. Challenging the priest is challenging God, which is impossible, which is suicidal. The church owns vast lands, worked by peasants, producing wealth, supporting bishops and abbots, funding cathedrals and monasteries. The church preaches poverty as virtue, while accumulating massive wealth, while living in comfort, while extracting from those who have nothing. The contradiction is obvious, infuriating, unchangeable. You attend Mass weekly, mandatory attendance, tracked, enforced. You don't understand Latin, the service is incomprehensible, you stand, you kneel, you pray in English, hoping God hears despite the language barrier. The priest tells you suffering is noble, poverty brings salvation, your reward awaits in heaven. You want to believe, need to believe, because otherwise, what's the point? Otherwise it's just exploitation, just suffering, just meaningless pain. So you believe, you accept, you endure. The work week continues, 3 days for the Lord, 1 day for the church, 3 days for yourself, supposedly. Except maintenance, repairs, obligations, they consume those days too. You're never truly free, never fully your own. Sundays are rest days, no work allowed, church law prohibits it. You attend Mass, you rest, you repair tools, you do light tasks, you recover enough to survive another week. The rest is necessary, mandatory, but it's not really rest, it's just not work, it's surviving, it's preparing to work again. The harvest is the worst time, all hands required, working constantly, Lord's fields first, then your own if time remains. You work dawn to dusk, weeks straight, racing against weather, against spoilage, against winter. Your children work, your wife works, everyone works, because harvest failure means starvation, means death, means everything. And after all that labor, after all that effort, the Lord takes his share, the church takes its tithe, you keep perhaps a third, perhaps less. You watch your food being carted away, watch your survival being extracted, watch the system functioning exactly as designed. The anger, the resentment, the rage, they burn inside. But expressing them is dangerous, rebellion is crushed, resistance is futile. So you swallow it, you suppress it, you turn it inward, it eats at you, destroys you slowly, makes you bitter, broken, defeated. Some peasants do rebel, occasionally, rarely, desperately. The peasants' revolt of 1381 is coming, 30 years from now, when thousands will rise, will demand freedom, will threaten the system. They'll be crushed, their leaders executed, the rebellion ending in failure and blood. But for a moment, for a brief moment, peasants will challenge their bondage, will demand humanity, will try. You won't live to see it, you'll be dead by then, worked to death, aged prematurely, destroyed by the system. But your children might see it, might participate, might dare to hope. Though hope is dangerous, hope is painful, hope leads to despair when it fails, when the crushing reality reasserts, when nothing changes. Better to not hope, to accept, to endure, to survive without expecting better. That's the safest path, the most survivable approach, the way to avoid additional pain. You're back at your hovel, the work day finally ended, the obligations finally met. You're destroyed, exhausted beyond measure, barely able to move. Your wife has prepared pottage, you eat mechanically, too tired to taste, too broken to care. Tomorrow you work your own fields, if your body allows, if exhaustion hasn't completely crippled you. The work never ends, even on your days, even when working for yourself, it's still brutal, still exhausting, still destroying you. There's no vacation, no retirement, no rest except death. You work until your body fails, until you can't anymore, until you die, then someone else takes your place, the cycle continuing forever. The feudal system is brilliant from the Lord's perspective. It extracts maximum value while providing minimum support. It keeps peasants poor, desperate, controllable. It maintains the hierarchy, prevents mobility, ensures stability. For the lords, for the church, for those who benefit, it works perfectly. For you, it's hell, it's slavery, it's a life of servitude and suffering. But the system claims to be natural, divinely ordained, the proper order of creation. The church teaches that God made lords to rule, peasants to serve. Questioning this is questioning God. So you don't question, you can't, the entire worldview, the entire society, the entire existence, it all reinforces your bondage, your servitude, your worthlessness. You're told you're lucky, that you have protection, that the Lord provides security. But security from what? From other lords who would exploit you differently. From raiders who would kill you instead of working you to death. The protection is just the absence of additional violence, it's not care, it's not concern, it's maintaining property value. You lie on your straw, body aching everywhere, mind numb from exploitation. Tomorrow brings more work, more labor, more serving the system that consumes you. This is serfdom, this is feudal obligation, this is medieval peasant work. Not honest labor that feeds your family, but compelled service that enriches others, that maintains hierarchy, that perpetuates your bondage. The work that owns you, that controls you, that defines your entire existence. You work not because you choose, not because it benefits you, but because you must, because refusing is impossible, because the system demands, and the system is absolute. Sleep comes slowly, resentment burning, anger simmering, acceptance hard won. You've survived another day, met another obligation, endured another exploitation. Tomorrow brings more, always more, the work never ending, the servitude never ceasing, the feudal system never releasing. This is why you wouldn't last a day, because the psychological weight of bondage, of being property, of having no freedom, would crush you before the physical labor could. Modern people value autonomy, demand rights, expect freedom. We couldn't survive without them, couldn't accept servitude, couldn't endure bondage. But medieval peasants did, for centuries, for generations, because they had no choice, because the alternative was death, because the system was total, all-encompassing, inescapable. They endured, they survived, they found meaning despite bondage. Through family, through faith, through small moments of autonomy, through whatever they could control. That's remarkable, that's human resilience, that's the capacity to continue despite everything. But it's also tragic that anyone had to, that systems created this, that bondage was normal, that exploitation was justified, that suffering was systematic. The feudal system lasted centuries, was ended by plague, by economic changes, by peasant resistance, by gradual evolution. But while it lasted, while it functioned, while it extracted, millions lived as you're living, in bondage, in servitude, in lives that weren't their own. Remember them, honor their endurance, acknowledge their suffering, and recognize the echoes, the patterns, the ways exploitation continues, in different forms, in different systems, but fundamentally similar. Sleep well tonight, knowing the work continues tomorrow, knowing the obligations never end, knowing the servitude is eternal. The feudal system, elegant exploitation, systematic bondage, normalized slavery. Where lords feast on peasant labor, where the church extracts in God's name, where freedom is concept that doesn't apply to you. Tomorrow we continue, exploring the religion that justifies this, the superstition that pervades everything, the darkness that lurks beneath village life. Rest while you can, because the psychological horror deepens, the spiritual oppression intensifies, the truth gets darker. The work owns you, the Lord controls you, the system consumes you. And tomorrow, the church will demand your soul, your faith, your complete submission. While feeding you lies, while extracting wealth, while maintaining the bondage that destroys you. Sleep well, if servitude allows it, if exhaustion permits it. The work continues tomorrow, always tomorrow, forever tomorrow, until death finally releases you from feudal bondage. You drift into exhausted sleep, resentment and acceptance mixing, anger and resignation coexisting, hatred and hope impossible to reconcile. Your body aches from the Lord's work, from labor that benefited others, from servitude that enriched those who contributed nothing. Around you, your family sleeps, equally exploited, equally trapped, equally bound by feudal obligations they didn't choose and can't escape. Outside, the village settles, darkness complete, the manor illuminated by candles, the Lord comfortable while peasants suffer. The bailiff sleeps, ready to wake peasants tomorrow, ready to extract more labor, ready to maintain the system through violence and threat. The priest sleeps in relative comfort, his rectory better than any peasant hovel, his meals better, his life easier, supported by tithes from those who have nothing. And you sleep on straw, on dirt, in filth, exhausted from work that wasn't yours, from labor that enriched others, from servitude that defined your existence. This is feudalism, this is medieval work, this is the bondage you wouldn't survive. Tomorrow brings the religion that justifies it, the faith that explains it, the church that benefits from it. Sleep well, the spiritual exploitation awaits. The night deepens, your exhausted body finally finding rest, your mind shutting down from overload. Dreams come, sometimes of freedom, sometimes of revenge, sometimes of simple autonomy, of choosing, of deciding, of being human rather than property. But dreams end, morning comes, the work resumes, the cycle continues. Forever, endlessly, until death. The feudal obligations that own you, or the work that controls you, the servitude that defines you. This is medieval peasant labor, this is systematic exploitation, this is bondage masquerading as social order. They endured it, they survived it, they died in it. And now you understand why, now you see how, now you know the truth. The work that owns you, the system that controls you, the feudalism that consumes you. Sleep well, rest well, because tomorrow the darkness deepens, the oppression intensifies, the truth becomes even harder. The religion awaits, demanding faith, extracting wealth, justifying bondage. And you'll believe, because you must, because questioning is impossible, because the alternative is damnation. Sleep well, the spiritual chains are heavier than the physical ones. Welcome back to medieval England. Tonight we explore the religion that dominates every aspect of peasant life. The church that controls, the superstition that pervades, the fear of hell that terrorizes. We'll reveal why Christianity in the Middle Ages bears little resemblance to modern faith, why magic and religion are inseparably mixed, and why the constant fear of damnation crushes as much as feudal bondage. So settle in once more, and let's explore the spiritual reality of medieval village life, where God watches everything, where demons lurk everywhere, and where your immortal soul is in constant danger. Sunday morning. Church attendance is mandatory. The bells ring, summoning the village. Everyone must attend. Absence is noted, punished, considered suspicious. You walk to the church, the only stone building besides the manor, imposing, permanent, representing God's power and the church's authority. The interior is dark, lit by candles, filled with smoke from incense. The walls are painted with vivid scenes, heaven and hell, salvation and damnation, reward and punishment. The images are terrifying, deliberately so, designed to frighten, to control, to ensure obedience. Hell dominates the paintings. Demons torturing sinners, bodies burning, souls suffering eternally. The detail is graphic, disturbing, nightmare fuel. You see people you know in those painted torments, recognize sins you've committed, fear you'll join them. Heaven is smaller, less detailed, vaguer. A few blessed souls in white, looking passive, looking boring compared to hell's vivid tortures. The message is clear: hell is real, hell is detailed, hell is waiting for you. The Mass begins, the priest speaking Latin, which you don't understand, which no peasant understands. The entire service is incomprehensible, mysterious, deliberately exclusionary. You stand when others stand, kneel when others kneel, cross yourself when others do, mimicking without understanding. The priest says this is necessary, that God prefers Latin, that the sacred must be mysterious. Really, it's about control, about maintaining priestly power, about ensuring peasants remain dependent. You can't read, can't understand, can't access scripture yourself. You need the priest to interpret, to translate, to tell you what God wants. The sermon is in English, finally something you understand. The priest speaks of sin, of damnation, of the punishment awaiting the wicked. He describes hell in vivid detail, the flames, the tortures, the eternal suffering. He names sins: pride, greed, lust, anger, envy, gluttony, sloth. You're guilty of all of them, obviously, everyone is, that's the point. The system is designed to make you constantly guilty, constantly fearful, constantly dependent on the church for salvation. The priest explains that salvation requires obedience to God, to the church, to the social order. Accepting your place, serving your Lord, paying your tithes, these are religious duties, divinely mandated. Disobedience is sin. So feudal bondage becomes holy, exploitation becomes godly, suffering becomes blessed. The church justifies the entire system, sanctifies inequality, makes servitude sacred. And you believe, you must believe, because doubting is sin, questioning is pride, thinking for yourself is rebellion against God. The Eucharist is the ceremony's center, the miracle of transubstantiation, where bread and wine literally become Christ's body and blood. The priest performs the ritual, speaking Latin, elevating the host, bells ringing. You believe this is actually, literally, physically Christ, that you're consuming God, that this is the most sacred moment possible. The theology is complex, the philosophy sophisticated, but you don't understand it, you just believe, accept, submit. Communion is rare for peasants, once or twice a year, Easter primarily, other times reserved for the worthy, the pure, the elite. You're too sinful, too unworthy, too common for regular communion. This creates hierarchy even in salvation. Nobles commune frequently, peasants rarely, inequality extending to the sacred. After Mass, confession. You enter the confessional, dark, private, terrifying. The priest asks about your sins, you confess, adultery, theft, envy, anger, the usual. He assigns penance, prayers to recite, fasts to endure, payments to make. Yes, payments. Some sins require financial penance, money to the church, buying forgiveness, literally. The system is brilliant, creating guilt, offering salvation, charging for it, profit from fear, wealth from damnation. And it works. You pay, you pray, you try to be better, you fail, you confess again, the cycle continuing, forever. The fear of hell is real, visceral, constant. You've heard about it your entire life, seen it painted on walls, heard it described in sermons, absorbed it into your worldview. Hell isn't metaphor, isn't symbol, it's literal place where literal fire literally burns literal souls literally forever. The eternity of it, the endlessness, the never-ending torture, it's incomprehensible, terrifying beyond measure. You lie awake at night, thinking about hell, fearing it, trying to avoid it, never certain you're succeeding. Every sin, every mistake, every impure thought, it all risks damnation, eternal punishment, infinite suffering. The weight is crushing, the fear is paralyzing, the anxiety is constant. Modern people struggle to understand this, the psychological toll of believing in hell, of fearing eternal damnation, of constant spiritual danger. But medieval peasants lived it, believed it absolutely, structured their entire existence around avoiding it. Superstition pervades everything, mixing with religion, inseparable from it. The Church condemns superstition, officially, calls it pagan, sinful, demonic. But also, the Church practices it, encourages it, profits from it. Holy relics are magical objects, bones of saints, fragments of the cross, items touched by holy people. They're believed to have power, to heal, to protect, to work miracles. Churches collect relics, display them, charge pilgrims to view them, profit from superstition while condemning it. You own a pilgrim's badge, purchased at great expense, from a shrine visit years ago. It's supposed to protect, to bring blessing, to ensure salvation. It's just tin, stamped with an image, mass-produced and sold. But you believe, you treasure it, you trust it, because what else do you have? Saints are invoked for everything, specific saints for specific problems, a whole pantheon of spiritual helpers. Saint Christopher for travelers, Saint Anthony for lost items, Saint Apollonia for toothaches, dozens more, each with their specialty, their domain, their power. You pray to saints constantly, asking favors, seeking intervention, hoping they'll help where God seems distant. This is technically Christianity, approved by the Church, orthodox belief. But it functions like paganism, like polytheism, like the old religions the Church supposedly replaced. The old gods aren't gone, not really. They've been transformed, renamed, absorbed into Christianity but still present. The fertility festivals become Christian holy days, the sacred wells become saints' shrines, the protective charms become blessed objects. The Church didn't eliminate paganism, it baptized it, Christianized it, claimed it while changing little. You believe in fairies, in spirits, in supernatural beings that inhabit the world. The Church says these are demons, servants of Satan, dangerous and evil. But village tradition says they're just there, part of nature, requiring respect and caution but not necessarily evil. Certain trees are sacred, certain springs are magical, certain places are dangerous, everyone knows this, everyone respects it, everyone teaches children these truths. When milk sours, when bread fails to rise, when animals sicken, it's not natural, it's supernatural, it's witchcraft. Someone has cursed you, given you the evil eye, he worked magic against you. You know who probably, the neighbor you argued with, the woman who looked at you strangely, the person who envies you. You respond with counter magic, protective charms, prayers, holy water, whatever might help. The church provides some tools, blessings, exorcisms, holy objects. But you also use folk magic, herbs, spells, rituals passed down through generations. The line between religion and magic is blurred, invisible, non-existent. Both seek supernatural intervention, both use ritual, both promise results, the only difference is church approval. Wise women exist in every village, healers, midwives, practitioners of folk medicine and folk magic. They know herbs, know charms, know the old ways, everyone uses them, everyone needs them. The church is suspicious, condemns some practices, tolerates others, occasionally prosecutes, mostly ignores. Because the church also needs them, can't provide medical care, can't replace their knowledge, can't eliminate demand for their services. Witchcraft accusations happen, occasionally, when things go very wrong, when someone needs blaming, when scapegoats are required. An accused which faces trial, often by ordeal, carrying hot iron, being submerged in water, surviving proves innocence, failing proves guilt. The logic is insane, the methods are torture, the outcomes are predetermined. Most accused witches are women, usually old, usually poor, usually powerless, easy targets, convenient scapegoats. You've witnessed a witch trial, years ago, a woman accused of cursing cattle, of causing stillbirths, of serving Satan. She was old, strange, lived alone, perfect target. They dunked her in the pond, if she floated she was guilty, if she sank she was innocent. She sank, drowned, was declared innocent posthumously, her body buried in unconsecrated ground anyway, because suspicion lingered. The crowd watched, you watched, everyone watched, terrified and fascinated, seeing what happens to the accused, to the different, to those who don't conform. The lesson was clear: conform, obey, don't stand out, don't be different, don't give them reason to notice you. Death is ever present, constant companion, defining reality. People die young, die often, die from everything. Disease, accident, childbirth, starvation, violence, the causes are numerous and common. The church provides framework for understanding death, for processing it, for hoping beyond it. Death is transition, the soul leaves the body, faces judgment, goes to heaven, hell, or purgatory. Purgatory is the middle option, temporary punishment, cleansing fire, purifying the soul before heaven. It's painful, it's long, it might last thousands of years, but it ends, eventually, in salvation. The church sells indulgences, payments that reduce purgatory time, for yourself or deceased relatives. Pay money, reduce suffering, buy your way toward heaven. It's simony, it's corruption, it's obviously wrong. But it's official church practice, approved, encouraged, profitable. You buy indulgences when you can afford them, which is rarely, trying to reduce your inevitable purgatory sentence, hoping it helps, trusting the church's promises. Ghosts are real, spirits of the dead, stuck between worlds, unable to rest, visible to the living. You've seen them, or think you have, shadowy figures, strange sounds, unexplained phenomena. The church says these are souls in purgatory, seeking prayers, needing help, desperate for intercession. Or they're demons, deceiving you, tempting you, trying to damn you. Either way, they're supernatural, they're real, they're frightening. The village has its haunted places, locations where ghosts appear, where tragedies occurred, where the dead linger. Everyone avoids them, especially at night, especially alone. Fear of ghosts is universal and rational. Demons are everywhere, invisible but present, working evil, tempting humans, serving Satan. Every sin is demonic temptation, every bad thought is demonic suggestion, every misfortune is demonic attack. You're constantly besieged, constantly in spiritual warfare, constantly fighting invisible enemies. The church provides weapons, prayer, holy water, blessed objects, the sign of the cross. You use them constantly, ritually, compulsively, trying to protect yourself, trying to resist, trying to survive spiritually. Satan is real, personal, active, powerful. Not metaphor, not symbol, but actual being, fallen angel, God's enemy, humanity's tormentor. He wants your soul, seeks your damnation, works constantly to destroy you. Every temptation is his work, every sin is his victory, every damnation is his triumph. The cosmic battle between God and Satan plays out in your life, in your choices, in your soul. You're the battlefield, the prize, the victim regardless of who wins. Angels exist too, God's servants, protectors, messengers. Everyone has a guardian angel, assigned at birth, protecting always, recording deeds. Your angel sees everything, knows everything, reports to God, witnesses your sins and virtues. This should be comforting, having divine protection, heavenly advocacy. But it's also terrifying, constant surveillance, never alone, always watched, even in your most private moments. The worldview is total, comprehensive, all-encompassing. Everything is spiritual, everything is significant, nothing is random or natural. Good fortune is blessing, bad fortune is curse or punishment, normalcy doesn't exist, everything means something, requires interpretation, demands response. This creates exhausting hypervigilance, constant interpretation, endless anxiety. You can't just live, can't just exist, everything requires spiritual analysis, theological understanding, religious response. And you're not educated, not trained, not equipped for this, you just do your best, guess, hope, pray, fear constantly. The priest has power over your salvation, literally, officially, theologically. He performs the sacraments, without which salvation is impossible. He hears confession, grants absolution, he controls access to God. Angering the priest is spiritually suicidal. He can refuse sacraments, can deny communion, can declare you excommunicate. Excommunication is spiritual death, cutting you off from the church, from the sacraments, from salvation. It's terrifying, ultimate punishment, worse than physical death, because it risks eternal damnation. So you defer to the priest, obey him, accept his authority, even when he's corrupt, even when he's wrong, because challenging him is too dangerous, spiritually suicidal. The church building itself is sacred space, consecrated, holy, different from the world outside. Entering requires reverence, proper behavior, spiritual preparation. The altar is especially holy, only the priest can touch it, only the consecrated can approach, it's literally God's dwelling place. This creates the sacred-profane divide, church versus world, holy versus sinful, pure versus corrupt. You move between them constantly, from church to field, from prayer to labor, from sacred to profane, the transition jarring, the contrast stark. Your life is profane, your work is worldly, your existence is sinful, only in church, only during Mass, only in prayer are you approaching the sacred. This devalues your daily life, makes it less important, less real, less meaningful than the spiritual. Everything you do, everything you are, it's just preparation, just waiting, just enduring until death, until judgment, until the spiritual reality fully manifests. This creates passivity, acceptance, resignation. Why fight for better earthly life when only the spiritual matters? Why resist oppression when suffering is spiritually beneficial? Why demand justice when injustice might be God's will? The Church teaches that suffering is redemptive, that poverty is blessed, that meekness is virtue. This justifies the social order, sanctifies inequality, makes exploitation holy. And you believe, you internalize, you accept your suffering as spiritually meaningful, as path to salvation, as God's plan. Whether this is truth or manipulation, theology or control, you can't determine, don't question, just believe. Sleep comes tonight after evening prayers, after reviewing sins, after begging forgiveness, after hoping for mercy. The spiritual weight crushes as much as physical labor, the fear of damnation exhausts as much as feudal service, the constant religious anxiety damages as much as malnutrition. This is medieval Christianity, not modern faith, not gentle Jesus, not personal relationship with God. This is fear, control, exploitation, wrapped in theological language, sanctified by tradition, enforced through terror of hell. The religion that terrifies you, the faith that controls you, the church that exploits you, while promising salvation, while demanding obedience, while extracting wealth. Sleep well, if spiritual terror allows it. Tomorrow brings the final chapter, disease and death, the ultimate realities that religion claims to explain but cannot prevent. You lie on your straw, spiritually exhausted, psychologically crushed, theologically terrorized. Your soul, if it exists, is supposedly immortal, supposedly valuable, supposedly worth more than your body. But your soul feels heavy, burdened, constantly threatened, never safe, never secure, never certain of salvation. Around you, your family sleeps, equally burdened, equally fearful, equally dependent on the church for hope. Outside, the church stands dark, imposing, representing God's power and the church's authority, both absolute, both terrifying, both inescapable. The priest sleeps, comfortable, secure, confident in his salvation, holding power over everyone else's. And you sleep in fear, in doubt, in hope mixed with terror, in faith that's more about avoiding hell than loving God. This is medieval religion, this is peasant faith, this is Christianity as tool of control, as mechanism of oppression, a system that crushes while claiming to save. Tomorrow we conclude, with disease, with death, with the end that awaits everyone, noble and peasant, priest and sinner, all equal in mortality if nothing else. Sleep well, the spiritual darkness deepens before the physical darkness ends everything. The night is deep, your prayers said, your sins confessed mentally, your hope fragile but present. You dream of heaven sometimes, of escape from suffering, of eternal rest, of peace that earthly life never provides. But you also dream of hell, of demons, of judgment, of failing, of damnation, the nightmares more frequent than the hopes. This is the psychological reality of medieval faith, the burden of believing in hell, of fearing damnation, of constant spiritual danger. Modern people struggle to comprehend this, the weight of it, the fear of it, the damage it does. But medieval peasants lived it, breathed it, were shaped by it, their entire worldview, their every choice, their whole existence, filtered through this lens of spiritual terror and hope. The religion that terrifies you, the faith that controls you, the church that exploits you, while providing meaning, while offering hope, while promising that suffering isn't meaningless, that life isn't pointless, that death isn't the end. Whether that's worth the cost, whether the hope justifies the fear, whether the meaning excuses the manipulation. These are questions you can't ask, can't answer, can't even imagine. You just believe, just endure, just hope, because what else is there? Sleep well, for tomorrow death comes, and with it, finally, the truth. Welcome back to medieval England for the final time. You've survived the squalor, the hunger, the servitude, the spiritual terror. Tonight we face the inevitable conclusion of all medieval peasant lives: disease and death. We'll explore the illnesses that kill constantly, the primitive medicine that rarely helps and often harms, and the grim reality that life expectancy is 35 years and most don't reach it. So settle in one last time. Get comfortable. And let's confront the medical reality of medieval village life. Where disease is universal, medicine is superstition, and death comes early for almost everyone. You're sick, have been for days, getting worse. It started with coughing, then fever, then difficulty breathing, now you're spitting blood. The villagers know what this is: consumption, tuberculosis, the wasting disease that kills slowly, painfully, inevitably. There's no cure, no treatment, no hope. You're dying, everyone knows it, they've seen it before, they'll see it again. Disease in medieval villages is constant, universal, deadly. The crowded hovels, the contaminated water, the malnutrition, the filth, all contribute. Everyone is sick, always. The only question is how sick, how fatal, how soon. Tuberculosis is everywhere, spreading through coughing, through close contact, through the shared air of cramped hovels. It kills slowly, over months or years, wasting you away, consuming you from inside, hence the name consumption. You cough constantly, painfully, bringing up blood and phlegm. Your chest aches, breathing is difficult, you're losing weight rapidly. There's nothing anyone can do, no medicine that helps, no treatment that works. You just waste away, suffer, die. The village healer is called, she's the wise woman, practitioner of folk medicine, mixer of herbs and prayers. She examines you, touching your forehead, feeling your pulse, looking at your tongue. Her diagnosis is already made, she knows consumption, she's seen it kill dozens, she knows you're dying. But she tries anyway, gives you a potion, herbs in ale, meant to strengthen, to heal, to help. The ingredients are random, based on tradition, on folklore, on guesswork. Comfrey for lungs, yarrow for bleeding, hyssop for coughing. None of it works, can't work. Tuberculosis is bacterial, herbs can't cure it. But you drink it, because hope is better than nothing, because trying is better than accepting, because what else do you have? She also performs rituals, chants prayers, makes signs to ward off evil. Because disease, in medieval understanding, is supernatural, caused by demons, by curses, by God's punishment. Physical treatment addresses symptoms, spiritual treatment addresses causes, both are necessary. She places amulets around your neck, herbs in pouches, protective charms. She draws symbols on the walls, smoke cleanses the room, prayers invoke saints. This is medieval medicine, mixing practical herbs with magical thinking, mixing genuine care with supernatural nonsense, unable to distinguish effective from ineffective. Some medieval medical knowledge is sound, surprisingly so. Wound care involves cleaning, removing debris, sometimes works. Bone setting is practiced, sometimes successfully. Herbal remedies occasionally help, willow bark for pain, garlic for infection, some plants contain active compounds. But this knowledge is mixed with astrology, with humoral theory, with religious explanations, making it impossible to separate truth from fiction, to know what works and why. The four humours theory dominates medical thinking. Blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile, their balance determines health, their imbalance causes disease. Treatment involves restoring balance through bloodletting, through purging, through vomiting. You've been bled before, for various illnesses, the barber surgeon cutting your vein, draining blood into a bowl, weakening you further. The theory says excess blood causes fever, removing it restores balance, cures disease. The reality is that bloodletting weakens patients, makes recovery harder, kills some who might have survived. But it's standard practice, recommended for everything, performed regularly, killing through ignorance masquerading as medicine. Purging and vomiting are equally popular, equally useless, equally dangerous. Strong herbs cause violent diarrhea, intense vomiting, supposedly expelling the disease, the bad humors, the illness. Really they just dehydrate, weaken, make things worse. But the theory persists, the practice continues, people die from the cure as often as the disease. Surgery exists, crude, painful, usually fatal. No anesthesia, patients are held down, restrained while the barber surgeon cuts, saws, removes. The screaming is intense, the pain indescribable, shock kills many before the surgery completes. No antiseptics, wounds become infected, gangrene sets in, death follows. Amputation is performed, for gangrenous limbs, for severe injuries, without anesthesia, using a saw. The survival rate is abysmal, most die from shock, from blood loss, from infection. The lucky ones die quickly, the unlucky ones suffer for days before succumbing. Trepanation, drilling holes in the skull, is practiced, supposedly releasing evil spirits, curing headaches, treating madness. It's insane, dangerous, sometimes fatal. But desperate people try desperate measures, believing, hoping, dying. Childbirth is exceptionally dangerous, a leading cause of death for women, maternal mortality is staggering. Your wife has survived 4 births, 3 were normal, 1 nearly killed her. The midwife attended, experienced, knowledgeable about normal births, helpless when things go wrong. Complications are common, death is expected, nothing can be done when hemorrhaging starts, when the baby is breech, when infection sets in. Women die, babies die, both die, it's normal, it's accepted, it's the price of reproduction. The midwife uses folk remedies, prayers, rituals. She might have the woman walk, might give herbs to strengthen contractions, might invoke saints. If things go very wrong, if the baby won't come, she might try extraction, reaching in, pulling, hoping. This often kills both mother and child, but doing nothing guarantees it, so she tries, does her best, hopes for miracles. Infant mortality is over 40%, almost half of babies die before age 5. Disease, malnutrition, accidents, all claiming small lives. Parents learn not to get too attached, not to assume survival, not to invest fully until children reach 5, prove they're survivors. This creates psychological distance, protective numbness, love held in reserve, until survival seems likely. It's practical, it's necessary, it's heartbreaking. You've lost 3 children, 2 to disease, 1 to accident. Each death was devastating, crushing, but also expected, normal, part of life's pattern. You grieved, you recovered, you continued, because surviving children needed you, because life demanded it, because stopping meant dying yourself. The Black Death is recent memory, 20 years ago, killing 1/3 of Europe's population, devastating villages, destroying communities. You survived, many didn't. The randomness was terrifying, the scale incomprehensible. Entire families died, villages were emptied, bodies piled, the world seemed to be ending. The church said it was God's punishment for sin, for wickedness, for humanity's failings. The reality was bacteria, rats, fleas, plague spreading through trade routes, through contact, through natural transmission. But no one knew, no one understood, explanations were supernatural, responses were futile. Some fled to the countryside, some locked themselves away, some prayed constantly, some gave up, lived wildly, accepted death. Nothing worked, nothing helped, the plague killed regardless, randomly, universally. You remember the symptoms, the buboes, swollen lymph nodes, black and oozing, incredibly painful. The fever, the delirium, the black patches on skin, the smell of decay. People died quickly, within days, sometimes hours, turning black, rotting while still alive. The bodies piled up, too many to bury properly, mass graves were dug, hundreds dumped together, the dead outnumbering the living. The trauma, the grief, the psychological damage, it's permanent, it changed everyone who survived, who witnessed, who lost everyone they knew. The plague created labor shortage, ironically improving conditions for surviving peasants, lords needed workers, couldn't be as exploitative, wages increased, serfdom weakened. But that's cold comfort, everyone you knew is dead, the world is emptier, the trauma is permanent. Leprosy is feared more than death, slow, disfiguring, isolating. Lepers are declared legally dead, cast out from villages, forced to live in leper colonies, separated from society. They must ring bells, warn of their approach, cannot touch others, cannot enter buildings, are treated as walking corpses. The disease is slow, progressive, nerve damage, disfigurement, body parts rotting, fingers and toes falling off. It's not as contagious as people think, requires close, prolonged contact, but fear overrides reality. Lepers are shunned, isolated, destroyed socially before they die physically. You've seen lepers, from distance, heard their bells, felt the fear, the revulsion, the relief that it's not you. They're pitied and feared, helped minimally, avoided absolutely, suffering that combines physical and social death. Other diseases are common, dysentery from contaminated water, typhoid, cholera, all causing violent diarrhea, dehydration, death. Smallpox, leaving survivors scarred, sometimes blind, sometimes dead. Measles, mumps, whooping cough, all killing children, all common, all accepted as normal. Parasites are universal, intestinal worms, liver flukes, all common, all weakening, all contributing to malnutrition, to disease susceptibility. You have worms, everyone does, it's normal, you don't even think about it unless they're particularly bad, unless they cause visible problems. Lice, fleas, bed bugs, they're everywhere, constant, unavoidable. They bite, they spread disease, they're just part of life. You scratch constantly, your skin is scarred, infected, but what can you do? Bathing is rare, removing parasites is impossible, you just live with them. Dental problems are universal, teeth wear down from gritty bread, cavities form, abscesses develop. The pain is excruciating, constant, untreatable. Extraction is the only solution, performed by the barber, without anesthesia, just pulling, hoping it comes out, hoping you don't die from infection. Many people lose most teeth by middle age, eating becomes difficult, nutrition suffers further, health declines more. The cycle of decline, of accumulating damage, of body failing, it accelerates with age. By 40, if you reach it, you are physically destroyed, unable to work, dependent on family, burden rather than provider. Few reach old age, those who do are rare, respected, seen as blessed, but also broken, suffering, waiting for death. Your tuberculosis is progressing, the coughing worse, the blood more frequent, the breathing more difficult. You're dying slowly, painfully, aware of every moment. The village watches, sympathetic, helpless, everyone has seen this, everyone will see it again. Death is familiar, regular, expected. Your family tends you, your wife brings water, your children look frightened, understanding is coming, death is approaching. The priest visits, hears your final confession, administers last rites, prepares you for death, for judgment, for eternity. You confess your sins, the usual ones, nothing dramatic, just a life of small failings, of human weakness, of being imperfect. The priest grants absolution, assures you of salvation, if you've lived properly, believed correctly, obeyed the church. The uncertainty gnaws, have you? Was it enough? Will God accept you? The fear of hell returns, intensified by approaching death, by the reality that judgment is imminent, that eternity begins soon. You pray, desperately, begging mercy, hoping for heaven, fearing purgatory, terrified of hell. The priest anoints you with oil, sacred ritual, blessing your body, preparing your soul, easing transition. He prays in Latin, incomprehensible, supposedly powerful, connecting you to God. You feel something, maybe, comfort, maybe, or just the placebo of ritual, of tradition, of doing what's expected. Death approaches, you feel it, the breathing becoming harder, the consciousness fading, the body giving up. Your family surrounds you, your wife holds your hand, your children watch, learning about death, experiencing loss, continuing the cycle. You think about your life, what you achieved, what you leave behind. You worked, you suffered, you survived as long as you could. You raised children, some survived, they'll continue, they'll remember you briefly, then move on. You served the Lord, paid the church, obeyed the system, lived as you were expected to live. You didn't matter, not to history, not to the powerful, not to anyone beyond your family. But you were human, you lived, you tried, that counts for something, maybe, hopefully. Death comes quietly, breathing stops, heart ceases, consciousness ends, whatever you are, you're gone. Your family wails, traditional mourning, loud, public, expected. Neighbors gather, offering condolences, sharing grief, supporting the living. Your body is washed, wrapped in shroud, prepared for burial. The funeral is brief, the priest says prayers, Latin and English, commending your soul, requesting mercy. Your body is buried in the churchyard, no coffin, just wrapped cloth, placed in the earth, covered quickly. A wooden marker, maybe, with your name, if your family can afford it, otherwise just an unmarked grave, one among many. You'll be forgotten quickly, within a generation, your children will remember, your grandchildren won't, you'll be lost to history. This is normal, this is expected, this is the fate of peasants, living, dying, disappearing. Your wife inherits your obligations, your plot, your servitude, she'll remarry probably, out of necessity, needing a man to work the land, to fulfill feudal duties. Your children will continue, will work, will suffer, will die young, exactly as you did, the cycle continuing, forever. The mortality statistics of medieval England are staggering. Life expectancy at birth is around 35 years, if you survive childhood, maybe 45. Infant mortality is 40 to 50%, half of children dying before age 5. Maternal mortality is high, childbirth killing regularly, women dying young, dying often. The Black Death killed a third of Europe, smallpox killed millions more, tuberculosis, dysentery, all the diseases, they claimed lives constantly, relentlessly, universally. The population was kept in check by disease, by famine, by high mortality, growth was slow, populations unstable, death was the dominant force. This is the reality of medieval life. Death is not distant, not rare, not hidden. It's public, frequent, central to existence. Children grow up seeing death, bodies, funerals, understanding mortality from young age. This creates acceptance, familiarity, but also trauma, psychological damage, collective grief that never fully processes. The living continue, because they must, because life demands it, because stopping means dying too. The village moves on, your death is noted, mourned briefly, then forgotten. Others die, constantly, regularly, the graveyard fills, life continues. This is medieval peasant death, common, expected, quickly forgotten. You mattered to your family, briefly, to your community, minimally, to history, not at all. This is the fate of most humans who've ever lived, living briefly, dying young, leaving no trace, being forgotten completely. It's humbling, it's sad, it's true. The modern world, with medicine, with sanitation, with nutrition, has changed this, extended life, reduced mortality, made death less common. We live longer, die older, have time to achieve, to matter, to be remembered. Medieval peasants had none of this. They lived, they worked, they died, they disappeared. Their lives were hard, short, brutal, defined by suffering, by servitude, by disease, by early death. This is why you wouldn't last a day, because the combination of physical hardship, psychological oppression, spiritual terror, and constant proximity to death would break you, destroy you, crush you completely. Modern people, used to comfort, to medicine, to hope of long life, we couldn't survive medieval reality, couldn't endure that brutality, couldn't accept that hopelessness. But medieval peasants did, for centuries, because they had no choice, because this was reality, because there was no alternative. They were tough, resilient, adapted to suffering. But they were also damaged, traumatized, destroyed by conditions we'd find intolerable. They deserve remembering, deserve honoring, deserve acknowledgement of their suffering. They were the majority, the foundation, the people who worked and died so civilization could exist. Their lives were terrible, their deaths were common, their existence was suffering. But they were human, like us, deserving of dignity, of recognition, of being more than statistics in history books. Sleep well tonight, one final time, knowing you've completed the journey, understanding the reality, facing the truth of medieval peasant life. Sleep well, grateful for medicine, for long life, for the modern world that, for all its flaws, is paradise compared to medieval villages. Remember them, the millions who lived and died in medieval poverty, in servitude, in suffering. Remember that your comfort, your freedom, your long life, these are recent, are unusual, are privileges most humans never had. Remember that the past was brutal, that life was hard, that death came early, and be grateful, deeply grateful, for the progress that changed this. The medieval peasants, living impossible lives, enduring unbearable suffering, dying young and forgotten. They were human, they mattered, they deserve remembering. This is their story, brutal, honest, true. The life you wouldn't survive, the reality you couldn't endure, the existence that would destroy you. They lived it, they died in it, they're gone now, returned to the earth they worked, forgotten by the history they sustained. Sleep well, rest well, the journey is complete, the truth is told. Why you wouldn't last a day as a medieval peasant, because everything about that life, the squalor, the hunger, the servitude, the spiritual terror, the disease, the early death, all of it would crush you, break you, destroy you completely. As it destroyed them, as it crushed millions, as it broke generations, until finally, slowly, gradually, the world changed, conditions improved, and medieval hell ended. Be grateful it did. Be grateful you live now, not then. And remember, always remember, those who weren't so fortunate, who lived and died in darkness, in suffering, in servitude, in fear. They deserve that much, at least, to be remembered, to be honored, to have their truth told. Good night, from medieval England, from the peasant village, from the life that was, from the suffering that defined an age. Sleep well, knowing you've glimpsed their reality, their horror, their truth. And be grateful every day for the world you live in, the life you have, the future they never saw but made possible through their suffering, their labor, their endless, forgotten sacrifice.